everybody, and happy Sunday. For those of you that are new, welcome. And for those of you that are returning, welcome back to the Torque and Thrust Talk Show, episode number 25, The Gray Scare. My name is Bill, and I have been an airline pilot for the past 7 years, hold 5 FAA type ratings, and currently fly the Boeing 737 for a major U.S. airline. My co-host is fellow co-founder of the Three Green Simulations Group, retired New York City EMT and flight sim extraordinaire, Tommy D of Level Flight Simulations. On this week's show, we are talking about Southwest Airlines Flight 2786, Hawaii Incident, GamerFest 2024, and a price breakdown of the Tesla Cybertruck. Then we will learn industry terms with jargon in a jiffy, learn from past accidents with safety stand down, live listener Q&A, and our discussion this week, the Gray Scare, DJI drone ban, a national security threat, or another political witch hunt. But without further ado, and actually more importantly, as always, Tommy D, how are you doing this morning?
I'm good, my friend. I'm good. How you doing this morning?
I am doing good. I hit the big 3-0 yesterday, like we were talking about in the pre-show. I already feel like I'm 55. So, every day rolling over, getting out of bed, something new's hurting. So, I guess it's just downhill from here.
I know
From
the
what I
feeling. I'm waiting.
understand.
I'm waiting to see what starts hurting Thursday on my birthday.
Yeah, that's the worst part. Is just I think it goes downhill. It's like you get up, and you're like, why does my back hurt? I don't remember doing anything to hurt my back. So unfortunately, that's just kind of where I'm at. But I had a great birthday. Wife did a lot of cool things, including a baseball game that we went to. I honestly couldn't have had a better birthday. So, but I heard you had some fun. Was it yesterday? You went out on the
Yesterday,
lake.
yeah, yeah. The better
Oh,
half.
that was your first
Um,
time kayaking.
yeah, that was my first time. The better half is
Okay.
kayak before, so we got there, and it's very inexpensive, and it's in the state park that's right here by our house.
Mm-hmm.
The people were so cool, right? We go out, we get on the water, and everything was great. And I'm thinking, uh, we had them for an hour, so we rode out a half hour,
Mm-hmm.
and then we rode back in. Coming back
Okay.
in was a lot better because the wind was at our back.
Oh yeah,
So
you probably got the
we had
current
a
going with you.
blast. We had fish jumping in between them, and the one thing I learned too is the kayak sits so low.
Mm-hmm.
So I reached forward to get the bottle of water, and I went like this. And I'm like, oh, I'm
Whee!
going in the
Yep.
drink.
Yep.
Um, and then the better half wanted to go to this one casino, and we weren't there for long. Like literally, I think we brought about $50 each. Like not a big thing. And I forgot to tell you in pre-show, the one slot machine I was playing was Monty Python: The Search for the Holy Grail,
Oh, that's such a
and
good one.
and I wasn't even really paying attention to the slot machine as much as I was the animation, because when you get whatever it is that triggers the free games, the one
Yeah.
character with the coconuts for the horse hooves,
Patsy. I
I
love
was
that.
just hysterical laughing the whole time. And
Oh,
we had a nice dinner and whatnot. It's actually been an active last couple days. We went out, we did a lot.
good. Yeah, I would say my past couple days have been kind of busy. I still got stuff to do. Like I was mowing the lawn, but not ironically, we were talking about EVs and stuff like that. I have an electric lawnmower because mainly one, it's more efficient. I don't have to buy gas. I just charge it up. And two, it's quieter, which is nicer for the neighbors. So when I'm mowing the lawn at 9 a.m., although I will argue 9 a.m. on a Friday, should probably be at work, but most of the people in this neighborhood are probably retired, so they're not at work. So it's a little bit quieter, but I'm learning that since it's hotter outside, like it's getting up to 90 usually when I'm mowing,
Hmm.
it doesn't last as long. I usually can do the front and back lawn no problem, but it dies about halfway through the backyard. So we had to split it up this week. So we're gonna be doing the lawn today. I found an issue with one of our master bedroom doors that I'm going to have to fix. Basically, they drilled holes that were too big for the screws for the hinges and didn't fix it. So my wife and I were sitting there going, well, do we want to contact the home builder and it take like, 2 million years for them to finally get it done? Or do we pay like the $10 and do it ourselves? And I said, I'll just do it. Let's do it ourselves. So that's something I got to do today too.
Yeah, you
So
better off something like that.
yeah, so
And then
just adulting.
yeah, about all
Just
I did was
adulting.
put our air conditioner in, because that weather that you're getting there with the constant 90s, we get
Yeah, it's heading
starting
your way.
tomorrow.
It's coming your way, and I hate to break it to you, Tommy. I don't see it cooling down. I think we're officially in summer. I don't. I haven't seen a drop yet, so I think we're officially in the summer. As long as it's not like it was. Was it last year, where it was like hitting 105 here, and as long
Hmm.
as it's not that hot, I think we'll be okay. 90s, I don't mind. 90s is outdoor activity. chill outdoor activity. No, so like sitting down, watching a game, stuff like that. But anything hotter than that, you gotta stay indoors. It's
Yeah,
way
we'll just in that weather, we'll be on the Jersey Shore on like a Saturday.
yeah.
Because
Mm-hmm.
for the next 2 weeks,
Mm-hmm.
we'll have Saturday, Sunday off together, and then
Oh, that's awesome.
I know I have a work schedule. Don't ask me what it is. No
Still
idea.
trying to figure it out because of the new site, right?
Yeah, I from Sunday to Saturday. At some point during the week, I will be working 40 plus hours, probably
Uh,
closer to 50 hours.
and that explains why our gaming schedule is kind of jacked up too. But we'll get into that. A lot of things are changing for Tommy and I right now. Tommy's got a new site job for a brand new facility that his company is building. I am going to be upgrading to captain here. I didn't get it for July, so it should be coming in August sometime. That's the official activation date. If not, it's going to be interesting because technically the company has to pay me as a captain, even though I'm a first officer, because they said I would be activated in August. But realistically, what's happening is since I'm a senior line holding first officer, they're keeping me on the line to fly the summer schedule, which is when we're the busiest. So it makes sense.
And I
They're
see
keeping
that
me out
makes
here.
sense. Yeah.
Yeah, versus like a reserve pilot who like someone who's junior to me who's maybe a reserve first officer. If they get activated in training in July, the most junior person, if someone junior to me goes into training before me, then I also get paid protected as a captain at that point too, per our contract. So I'm kind of fingers crossed someone junior to me went in July because that means I get my pay protection as a captain. But until then, I'm so August it is. I told Tommy I'm studying like crazy. Long flights. I'm whipping out. While we're sitting there, I'm reading through all the manuals, going through all over the systems again. The 737 is the was it my most experienced airplane that I'm on? I have nearly 1,500 hours on it, and it's taken the lead. It was the 737, then the Embraer 145, then the CRJ, then the 175 in terms of flight time. So it's just a matter of reviewing at this point. But with that being said, I am starting us off today with some aviation news. Something. A lot of things are popping up, and they're kind of afterwards. I don't know how media is getting wind of it, but this is about the Southwest Airlines Boeing 737 MAX 8 that had a low altitude incident in Lihue, Hawaii. Lihue, Hawaii was my first overnight with my major airline. Absolutely love that airport. But I saw this article pop up. This is from Simple Flying's Trevin Christian Cassinator. I think I said that name. I'm sorry if I butchered that, Trevin. But one thing I do want to mention, though, before we start this article, I did read the credentials of Trevin. Trevin is a graduate of the University of North Dakota with some, I think it was aeronautical and aviation, a degree. However, I will warn you, the article itself is kind of has some severe language associated, not like explicit language, but as in language that's a little extreme for the situation. For example, the Boeing 737 MAX 8 comes within 400 feet of the ocean while approaching Lihue Airport. It's more of a grab for attention, I think. So what I did is I kind of filtered it down just to the facts to give you a non-emotional, factual account or report on what happened with that Boeing 737. Because if you read the article, it seems a little more extreme than it probably actually was. But we'll get into that. So this happened on April 11th in 2024, so about a month ago. Southwest Airlines 2786 was an approach to Lihue, Hawaii, which is the smallest island in Hawaii up on the northeast side of the chain. It descended to approximately 400 feet above the ocean during a go-around from an instant approach. Data shows that the aircraft descended at 4,400 feet per minute, then climbed back up at 8,500 feet per minute with a max speed of 238 knots. Now, something to point out is that is from a source like Flight Radar 24 or FlightAware. Those take snapshots, and they are radar snapshots and ADS-B snapshots only. They are not flight data recorder instrumentation. So that didn't come directly from the FDR or the flight data recorder. So something like an 8,500p, you could get a momentary if you pitch up real quick. It may not have been a sustained 8,500 feet per minute climb or sustained 4,400 feet per minute descent. It may have been momentary, and that's when it happened to capture. So there are some errors and some intricacies with that data. So we got to keep that in mind when we're using that to analyze incidents like this. According to an internal memo from Southwest itself, the incident was as a result of the first officer pushing forward on the control yoke during the initiation of the go-around. The first officer noticed that the aircraft was about to overspeed and then reduce the thrust. The combo of pushing the nose down and reducing the thrust resulted in the undesired aircraft strait, which was an unintentional descent towards the ocean. I'm not going to I was an armchair quarterback this. I'm going to let the professionals do it, and if there's a more official report that comes out from the NTSB, then we'll disseminate that to you, I should say. But this was from the Southwest Memo, so it was piloted error. First officer pushing forward during the go-around. If I had to make an educated guess, probably a somatographic illusion where the linear acceleration in your ear, when you accelerate, it makes you feel like you're pitching up even though you're accelerating. So a lot of time, the tendency for pilots, especially in IMC, which they were because they didn't have the runway, that's where they're going around, the tendency of that is to feel like you're pitching up and then to force the nose down when you're not actually pitching up. So probably felt like he was pitching up, or she, I don't know, but the first officer probably felt like they were pitching up. Push the nose down out of just muscle reflex, and then notice the overspeed are starting to happen, so pulled back the thrust, and that combination is what resulted in the descent. The following rapid climb after that was, in my opinion, consistent with a terrain escape procedure, so it is very possible, because we don't have the cockpit voice recorders, we don't know what alerts they got, but in that situation, that low, that close to terrain, because Lihue is surrounded by terrain, they probably got some sort of alert, either a too low terrain, depending on where the gear was, or a pull up. Now, if we get a pull up, it's a mandatory escape procedure per our manual, which is basically set autopilot, auto throttle off, set max thrust, stow the speed brakes, and you pitch into the flight directors initially, and then you pitch as high as you can without stalling to basically do a maximum performance climb to get away from any terrain, including the ocean. So that momentary 8,500 foot per minute climb that they saw on like the flight radar and stuff like that could have possibly been as a result of a escape procedure, which they would have been doing what they were supposed to. So like I said, in my opinion, that might have been what happened, but we don't officially know just yet. The flight returned to their origin, which was Honolulu. This Southwest flight was doing an inter-island run, and they returned to Honolulu with no reported injuries, but the aircraft did experience a flap overspeed during the go-around, and so I haven't heard anything more about whether or not there was what the maintenance inspection entailed. So I don't know if there was damage, but there should have been. It probably was. I didn't see in the article, but something like that that would have been written up, and maintenance would have to inspect the aircraft because of the flap overspeed. So I'm going to bring Tommy in on this real quick because once again, we're seeing that Boeing 737 name in the title, right? Trying to do an attention grab, which I didn't like. 'Cause, I mean, Southwest, everybody knows Southwest flies Boeing 737, but the way this article was written and the title was written, it was a Boeing 737 did it, which I didn't really appreciate because it could have easily been an Airbus that did it as well. In fact, United back in, was it December of last year, coming out of Maui, had something similar, and that was a 777.
Yep.
So,
well, and so back in Honolulu, the aircraft did land safely, didn't it?
Yep, and had no injuries reported.
See, that's notable and funny. That wasn't in the article at all.
No, it wasn't. I had to look that up elsewhere. Also, the writer Trevin started to interject his own opinions as to what it would have felt like in the flight deck or in the airplane during that go around. So it wasn't the article. That's why I said I had to filter out a lot of his Trevin's inputs, or like, how do I put it, adjectives, because there was a lot of conjecture and speculation from him in the article about what happened, and what I told you is just what I extracted factually because I've seen the internal memo that's been filtered around, and also from the article I could pull that data point. But his article, that's why I said it was kind of severely written, because it was just very extreme the way he was describing the incidents that have occurred.
Right, because you know what, that's what sells articles.
Yeah,
Good
and the thing is
generally does not sell as much as the way that was written.
Yeah, and the thing is I was looking at it too, because like I was mentioning the 4,400 feet per minute descent, that could have been just a initial, like, we don't have the flight data recorder data. That's probably from like flight radar and stuff. Mm-hmm. So that could have been just the momentary going, oop, and then the captain went, go around, oh no, climb, right? Because that jip whiz at that altitude near terrain is super sensitive. So if you do something like that, you'll instantly get a don't sink or possibly a pull up. So it's possible it's not as severe as it sounds. So on a non-precision approach, I have to look at the plates for Lihue again, but on a non-precision approach, going around at about like 500 feet for minimum descent altitude is pretty accurate for a non-precision approach. So you're talking about possibly, they said as low as 400 feet. So you're talking about going around 500 feet and possibly just losing 100 feet. And like I said, it's that momentary push that the flight radar or ADS-B captured that might have been the 4,400 foot per minute descent that they're claiming. It's not like they came screaming out of the sky like the Atlas 1539 a couple years ago and going into Houston, where they were actually descending 6,000 feet per minute into Trinity Bay. So I don't know. I got to look at more data because right now it's just become aware to media because I didn't know about it until just this week. So I'm assuming there's going to be more data coming out about it, and then we'll take a little closer look as to what actually happened. Because if you think about it, 4,400 feet per minute at 400 feet,
Yeah.
you be in the water pretty quick. So
Seconds.
I think it's that momentary push, probably the startle reaction, maybe the first officer shoving the nose over because they thought the nose was coming up too much. I don't know. I would have to look. I think it may be based on the language and how this article was written from Trevin and Simple Flying. It might be a little over exaggerated. So I'm waiting to see a little bit further about more data. But regardless, it was pilot error. And that's the problem. For me, that was the big takeaway from this is that it was a pilot error issue. Now, the first officer was fairly inexperienced according to the internal memo. And I don't know if they were doing OE, but it said it was the first time they were doing the inter-island route because Southwest is starting to do that. So that was the first time the first officer had flown from Honolulu to Lahui. So inexperience plays a huge role in this. Although a go-around is a standard operating procedure, we don't do it very often. It's not a thing that happens every time. But like at my company, part of every approach brief is a go-around briefing. We literally walk each other through how we're going to deal with a go-around. So mine already says, okay, if either of us calls a go-around or necessitates go-around, we'll call them going around, click the toggle buttons, going around, flaps 15, check thrust, pause rate, gear up, set missed approach altitude, 400 feet, roll mode, 800 feet, level change set, clean maneuvering speed, flaps 5, flaps 1, flaps up, after takeoff checklist. So we go through it. I mean, it's not that fast, but we'll walk each other through what we're going to be doing at the end of every approach briefing. So that way, if we have to do a real go-around, we're just doing what we briefed. It's just, and it's a go-around's not a quick maneuver. It's not a, what does Top Gun Maverick do? The Scorpion maneuver or whatever they call it. It's not it's not you put the thing on the tail. It's you go toga. You either feel it advancing. If the autopilot's off, you advance slowly and you pitch up. I usually start around 10 degrees to start and then into the flight directors, making sure we have a positive rate of climb, and then you just go through it. So I don't know. It might be a culture thing. I don't know if they do that at Southwest, but maybe it's something they should probably start incorporating at the end of their approach briefs if it's going to become this big of an issue. So
maybe,
but
and
yep.
like you said, we'll see what the NTSB said. I'm sure that first officer is going to go to
retrain.
Yeah, Denver or wherever it is Southwest is, and spend some time in the sim and learn and move forward in their career in a positive way. But like we discussed the last couple weeks with everything that goes on, bad news sells better than good news, and Boeing is under the microscope right now. Why? Because nothing else happened anywhere else in the aviation industry. There's probably
and
going on.
in Southwest. Yeah, and also Southwest had another one, which was reported as technically an accident because of the failure of the standby rudder system, which I'm still waiting on a full NTSB workup on that before I talk about it. But Southwest is now under the microscope because of those two incidents. But like I said, in the future, that's what this show's about. We'll keep you up to date on what's going on. Nothing big with Boeing. Haven't heard anything more about Spirit. The only thing I heard about Spirit is that they're not considering bankruptcy during their financial struggles right now. So continuing with the furlough as far as I know. But we'll see. And that's where this segment in the future will update you on that. But with that being said, we're going to hand it over to Tommy. And Tommy is going to be talking about some gaming news this morning.
Thanks, Bill. So some gaming news. This is actually just going to be a generality. The first week in June was Game Fest 2024 out in Los Angeles, where a bunch of gamers, bunch of developers, people to be sponsored and represent games. They all come in, they all play on the top of the line of everything, like stuff I'll never be able to afford and go with. But here are some of the takeaways. The bullet point list of everything they announced at Game Fest that comes in, and it concerns really nothing I play, nothing I know Bill plays. Maybe some of our community. If you guys hear something, let me know. You know, Lego Horizon Adventures puts Alloy in a wonderful co-op world later this year in access, PC and all with that works on. Harry Potter, September 3rd for console. Quinditch, Quintitch Champions. I'm not a Harry Potter fan. Sorry. Here's one that caught my eye. Star Wars Outlaws trailer confirms Lando ahead of Ubisoft for forward gameplay. So that sounds like a leak to me. Batman. I know Batman Arkham Shadows is a big one. That's got a new trailer coming out, and it's getting actually going to be getting an entire new storyline. So I'm sure the Batman folks will be good with that. Delta Force Hawk Ops and PC Global Alpha coming in July. So there's going to be another first person shooter, it looks like. Dear and Boy is an upcoming performer about a kid who finds a hurt fawn. So that's going to be one of those not so open map, but one of those games where the decisions you make during the game affect the outcome of the game. Some of the other bullet points I had, Valorant is coming to PS5 and Xbox Series X and S. Now, Valorant is big. It's PC only platform right now. I know the pro gamer Shroud plays Valorant like pretty much 24/7. He's kind of like a staple on Twitch. Um, I personally, I've watched some of his gameplay and just not for me. Maybe I'll try it. And the last one that I have is I know there are a lot of people who play Dune, and that's a very popular game, just not my genre. Dune Awakening is going down an alternate history storyline to the books and films. But that's all they said about it. They kind of left that a cliffhanger. Now, are they going back Dune from when I was a kid with Sting, or are they doing the more current stuff? My gut says more current stuff, but if you want to make it historic, you got to go back to the beginning. Um, Surprisingly, Star Wars was really the one game that I went and tried looking into. Excuse me. But nothing about COD, nothing about Black Ops 6, nothing about this, that, and the other thing. And I think with everything that's going on in the COD world and some of the reports and things that I'm seeing, and I'd like to build come in on this too, because this affects him also. We play COD together. A lot of times we play it off stream because we use it just to hang out. But I'm noticing now Black Ops 6 coming out. Still can't find Black Ops 5. That's apparently an anomaly. Um, you're actually
Might
working on 3 skins for Woods now in Modern Warfare 3 for the October release of the game. So if you have Battle Pass, you could already download Black Ops 6. But personally, I think all the complaints and everything we hear about Modern Warfare 3, I think it's starting to take effect now.
what do you mean? Like the what
I think we're
complaints?
starting to see a decrease in the Call of Duty spectrum of games. A lot of
You mean
people are
Colts?
leaving it, they're broke.
Yeah. Well, it's not only broke because it's just you don't get your money. It's like I hate to say it, it almost feels like a scam every time you buy something from them.
Yeah,
Because it's like, for example, I did it once. I bought Battle Pass once. I was a sucker. It was like the second season after owning the game. I'm like, cool, I want this skin. And come to find out, that doesn't mean you get the skin. You still got to play a gajillion games to earn the points to get to the skin that you want. That's the part that I didn't like. It's like, wait, no, I bought it. I should just be able to equip
yeah,
my player with that, my operator.
they are definitely well on the path of pay to win.
Yeah. So I don't know. I talked about it before. The problem is I can't remember which came first. I think Player Known Battlegrounds came first. That when it came out was revolutionary. The way you played, the King of the Hill type, or Queen of the Hill type gameplay where it's until the last player standing is the winner. And then you got Fortnite, which is basically a kids version of PlayerUnknown Battleground with cooler skins, more kiddish, cartoonish type game. But it's PlayerUnknown's Battleground just in a cartoon form. And then Call of Duty and Activision and all them went, this is making a lot of money. Let's make Warzone. So it's not anything new. It's just a glorified adult version, a military version of Fortnite. And I think, like, for me, I've never played Warzone. I rarely do. I mean, sometimes Tommy and I will play with some people that will do Warzone, but it's not enjoyable. I don't like it. So it's one of those things I think hopefully there's not going to be a Black Ops 6 Warzone. There probably is going to be a Black Ops 6 Warzone. I really hope there's
going to
not.
be something. I don't know. It's sitting in my battle pass, and that's exactly what it's doing.
So by the way, it's Harry Potter Quidditch.
There you go, Quidditch. That's the one. Yeah, I'm not the Harry Potter guy.
Yeah, when you said, I don't know what you said, and I was like, yeah, he's probably never seen Harry Potter.
Quidditch.
Yeah. I was like, Tommy's not a Harry Potter guy. That's fine. That's okay. I grew up on Harry Potter. It was my generation's. What big book series did you have growing up, Tommy, that you remember?
See, back when I was a teenager, I was a Tom Clancy guy.
Well, not Tom.
We had actually a lot more. We had Star Wars, we had Star Trek, like all different side stories stemming out from the television shows. Star Trek, more of the shoot-offs were the original movies, and then they went to books from there. Star Wars, there was always things for that, but because the storyline books of like games that we had now was never something that interested me. One of the coolest books I ever saw, though, was a Star Wars pop-up book in Shakespearean.
Yep, I would fall asleep immediately. But so like with Harry Potter, that's my generation. Like I think the first one came out in 99, and I grew up with Harry Potter. So that's why my generation, the millennials, and technically generation... Oh, God, we talked about this a couple episodes ago. I'm a millennial. Generation Z? Gen Z? Is that after me?
Gen Z.
Yeah, Gen Z. That's why. Yes, that's what we grew up on Harry Potter. But yeah, so of those, the only games I recognized was Harry Potter. I didn't recognize any of the other ones. So
Batman I recognized because that.
Oh yeah, Arkham
Batman
Knight
has been a hot minute.
Yeah, my friend, one of my good friends from college, used to play that all the time. I've never played it, but that's the only reason I know it. But thanks, Tommy, for the gaming news update about Gaming Fest 2024 and the top 5 games looking so far in 2024. Now we're going to do our automotive segment here. We're going to be talking, Tommy and I always love talking about EVs. That's been a big topic on the show because we believe, sustainability-wise, EVs are the future. But the biggest problem here in the United States, and we always talk about it, is accessibility to the EVs. Unless you're either Elon Musk or someone who's extremely rich and can afford it, a lot of the high-end, marketed EVs are super expensive. But that's starting to change a little bit. We're starting to see mainstream manufacturers like Nissan and other cars moving towards EVs that are a little more affordable, but still not quite hitting the mark. For example, we talked about the F-150 Lightning, $97,000 car. But going with that, we found a article from Motor Trend. I love Motor Trend. Always has great automotive news. But this is from Justin Westbrook from Motor Trend. They actually did a Cybertruck breakdown of the price, which I thought was interesting because when you're shopping for cars, you want to know, well, if I go with the cheap base version or base trim, what do I actually get with that? Because sometimes the base trim is better. You get all the stuff you want with the base. Perfect example is this year Nissan's 2024 Titan. I talk about the Titan all the time because I just got one. But the base SV, they cut off the S, and now it's SV. So you get a lot of the what would be considered last year's mid-trim amenities and technology updates in the cab. It's the same. It's what you get now standard in the base or SV model. I personally got a Pro 4X, and I got all the bells and whistles that I wanted on it. But with that being said, like I said, you always kind of want to know the price breakdown if you're thinking about getting a Cybertruck. I personally would never get caught dead with a Cybertruck. Just because I think they're the ugliest thing known to man. But that's to each their own. The beauty is in the eye of the beholder. So this is for those people out there that are maybe looking at getting a Cybertruck. Let's talk about the price breakdown. So I ordered this from the cheapest, I guess, model or trim level and worked it to the most expensive based off the article. And then we'll go from there. So the first one is a single motor $40,000 version, right? Everybody's going, hey, well, hold on a second. Bill's truck was $65 MSRP. That is correct. But here's the thing. Tesla is not going to make it. It's just like Tesla's Model 2 or whatever, the Model C. They were promising a sedan version of basically the Model Y or Model S to be more affordable. Well, guess what? Tesla's falling back on their word again. They're not going to be making a single motor 40K version of the Cybertruck. So once again, we see Tesla and Elon going, hey, we're going to do this and get all these people hyped up about it, and then they're actually not going to deliver. But first, the base trend or the base trim is going to be your rear wheel drive only. That is $61,000. Still not bad because my truck MSRP'd for $65,000, so it's still not bad. He had set to 2025. Here's the thing: it hasn't been released yet. It says to be start on lots in 2025 or available to be bought in 2025. So it's very possible that Tesla still may be like, no, never mind. We'll just forego that trim level and just completely read it. But anyways, rear-wheel drive, 61,000, some specs on it. You get a 250-mile range. You get north to 60 acceleration in 6.5 seconds, which is actually not too terrible for a truck. Your top speed is 112 miles an hour and a towing capability of 7,500 pounds, which is not bad. My truck has a towing capacity of 9,130, and I want to say the F-150 Raptor has something similar to that, so it's comparable. And honestly, top speed 112 miles per hour, that's not bad at all. If you're, because realistically, you shouldn't. There's a disclaimer: shouldn't be going anywhere near that speed. Anyways, it just means you can buy cheaper tires too. So, well, I take that back. Their tires are actually $1,200 for the Cybertruck. But my point is top end speed, unless you're racing it on a racetrack legally and not endangering the lives of other people, top speed isn't really too big of a concern for me. But that's the rear-wheel drive. We'll see if they come out with it in 2025. Now, the next trim level is the all-wheel drive. It's roughly about $80,000. But here we go again with the Tesla cycle of, I would call it, lying to the public. As of this month, according to Cybertruck owners or people who are interested in the all-wheel drive who have reached out to Tesla and asked them when they're actually going to have these available for sale, Tesla has said to them that Tesla is not planning to manufacture this trim, just the all-wheel drive trim. Right now, they're only planning to manufacture the Cyber Beast and the Foundation series, which are the more expensive all-wheel drive options I'll get into here in a second. So it was supposedly a all-wheel drive, like I said, $80,000 trim level that's been marketed by Tesla. And once again, Tesla is saying, nah, we're just going to make the more expensive one, of course. So the next trim level is going to be the Cyber Beast, which is $100,000. Now, mind you, let me just explain this. My down payment on this house that I'm currently in, my brand new house, was less than the cost of this car. Okay, so to kind of put that in perspective. The Cyber Beast is a triple motor, 320 mile range, 130 mile per hour top speed, north to 60 in 2.6 seconds, and a tow capacity of 11,000 pounds. The only thing that kind of makes me raise my eyebrows on this that I might consider getting, or why I would get it compared to the other models, is that 320 mile range. 250 miles is not that bad, especially if you're using it around the city, which is actually kind of what I use my truck for. The reason I got a truck is not to travel with it, because if we travel any long distances, we're taking my wife's SUV, which is hugely more fuel efficient. But my truck is mainly around town, gets me to and from the airport, as well as if there's any major projects or anything big I need to bring home from the store for the house, I can just throw it in the back of my truck. So, the north to 60, unless you're drag racing, everybody off the line, nobody cares that you're going to be going north to 60 in 2.6 seconds. Once again, unless you're racing it on a track, 130 miles per hour, really don't care. But the 320 mile range is actually pretty good. So if you plan on traveling, like towing a camper or towing something with the Cybertruck to go travel and stuff like that, that 320 mile range is actually pretty decent. And then the Foundation series, which is the high end, the top trim of the Cybertruck, is going to be $120,000, which is everything mentioned previously. But includes a dual motor, all-wheel drive, and includes a light bar and self-drive, their autopilot technology. I did read in the article that if you wanted the longer range or the extended range, it was an additional $16,000. So even if you got, let's say, if they did produce the all-wheel drive, which a truck, Tommy and I have talked about this, a two-wheel drive truck is kind of useless, but an all-wheel drive truck at $80,000 plus $16,000, you're still looking at a $96,000 truck. So I would honestly, especially because payload, because the back of the Cybertruck is useless for payload, I would go get an F-150 Lightning for the same price. So let me bring in Tommy, because Tommy and I have been talking about this, and it's largely been because I I go out my truck. Um, so let's say you had an F-150 Lightning, Tommy. You had to choose between an F-150 Lightning and the Cybertruck. Obviously, looks aside, let's talk about just technical, like its usefulness, right? I want to say the F-150 towing capacity is probably about like 91, maybe 11 if you have a weight distribution hitch. But let's just say you have the choice between an F-150 Lightning and a Cybertruck. Appearances doesn't matter. Which one are you going with?
The Lightning.
The Lightning. Okay, yeah,
I'm
I
going
do
with
the
the
same thing.
Lightning.
I don't. I. The thing is, the Cybertruck is useless, other than it being a sign of status, and that either. And it's funny. It's not really a sign of status. It's a sign of either you have a lot of money or you're in debt up to your eyeballs.
Right.
It's like people driving around with the King Ranches and the Lariats here, the Platinum King Ranches here where I live. Like I said, the average GDP for a four person family in my town per year is 37,000. So people driving around with the high end trucks, the brand new ones, the 24, possibly 25 here in a couple months. It's like either you're in severe debt or you make a lot of money. It doesn't. To me, it's not a status thing. But I'm right there with you because the back. I don't know if you have you seen the back when they open it up of a Cybertruck, like
No, the
the
only time that I've
bed.
seen a Cybertruck was making a right hand turn, and I was about 100 feet away from him on my way to work, and I just looked at him. I was like, ah,
I saw one at the
but
Charlotte airport this week.
yeah, it's like, where is the practicality in this?
I don't think it is. I just and it doesn't mention payload because I don't think you can actually put any sort of payload in the truck bed. I think it's just a standard boot or trunk, as we call it here in the United States. So yeah, I can tow 11,000 pounds, but you can't really put anything heavy in the actual. It's not really a pickup truck. It's they call it a cyber truck, but it's not really a
No,
truck.
the way
It's
it looked to me
it's.
was with that trunk that it has, like,
Mhm.
you can put your groceries in it, but
Yeah,
that's going to be about it.
yeah. I feel like it's more of a. It's a you know how we had crossovers, which were the cross between SUVs and sedans.
Hmm.
I think it's created a new class of crossover between trucks and a sedan because that's what it is. It's basically a hatchback that can tow
Yeah,
something.
that's all it is.
Yeah. No.
And as far as like owning the Lightning, like I would get a lot more use out of the bed in the Lightning, hauling
Yes.
whatever, like, if we were doing a sheetrock project or,
Mm-hmm. You can
you
do a
could
lot
actually
more.
use it as a truck.
Yeah, and not to mention repairing. I mean, it can get expensive with anything that's electric, but the Tesla. I was just looking in that article. It was listing off certain prices to get a new tire or spare tire for the Cybertruck. It's $1,200. That's more than a set of 4 tires for my truck.
Yeah, Elon can keep that.
Yeah, Elon's going the wrong way. I really respected Elon in the beginning because I felt like his intentions were good, making the technology available to everyone, and to try to truly move us towards a truly green and sustainable future. But I don't know what bit him, whether it was greed, if it was the capitalist bug, but the way they're marketing these cars is just I don't know. It's like it's more concerned, and I honestly I would love to see what the price to build one of these Cybertrucks is, and I want to see the profit margin on a Cybertruck because it's one thing to actually be trying to turn a profit, if they make high quality cars and stuff like that, or is he just trying to maximize the profit by creating them cheaply but charging through the nose for them? We talked about it last episode. We talked about it
Yeah,
with the
it
big
would be
three.
interesting to compare those numbers. It
Yeah. So
really would.
some I'll do some research and we can talk about it in the future. We can just continue talking about it because, there's continuous updates with like the GPV. We're kind of getting to that range where, or the time of this in our history where they're starting to move towards EV because of the green initiative. In fact, rumor has it that the Titan is technically not going to be around if this is its last year, but they think they're going to come back either with a new V8 engine in 26 or it's going to be an electric version because everybody is trying to move towards an electronic EV,
I think so. I
like
think
truck
it
and
is
stuff.
on the drawing board.
Yep.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah, I don't think it's going to be a forgotten series of vehicle. I think it's going back to the drawing board because you got to remember, think back like, a 1968 Boss Mustang, brand new, right? What if Ford brought that back now?
Yeah.
you're
No,
talking
it's
how
just
many decades worth of technology and
yeah,
R&D for all the majors here,
yeah.
so they're going to do something with the latest innovations in technology. That's
Well,
just
they have to.
my
They have
thought
to
about it.
keep up with the competition.
Right.
Yeah.
And then every once in a while, bring it back to the drawing board and re-engineer.
Yep. Yep. So that's what we have this week for automotive news. Like I said, we'll keep it updating. The whole EV thing is just something we talk about a lot and is constantly evolving. But now we'll move on to our favorite segment of the show, Jargon in a Jiffy. And for those of you that are new to the show or maybe first time watching, Jargon in a Jiffy is a word game that we play here on the show where each host comes up with their own word or definition, or sorry, word, term, or acronym from our current field of work. In Tommy's case, since he's a retired EMT, he can draw from either. We say the word, say it in a sentence, and it's up to the other host to try and guess the word. The whole point is so you guys learn some industry terms, so that way it's not so intimidating when you finally get into our career field. So with that being said, Tommy, take it away with your Jargon in a Jiffy.
Okay, thanks. So it's actually from my old career this week, and it's an
Okay.
abbreviation. But
Okay.
here's the sentence.
Well,
When
okay.
making my notification to the emergency room, I requested CAT scan on standby for a possible CVA. The abbreviation I'm using today is CVA.
Okay, I would say you should probably start with that. Okay, CVA. Say the sentence one more time because I had no idea where it was in the sentence.
When I contacted the emergency room, I requested CAT scan on standby for a possible CVA.
CAT scan on standby. A cranial, um, uh, CVA. You said
CVA. Yep. Charlie Victor Alpha.
alpha. Cranial,
You're there. You
vent,
got the right body part.
ventricular. Uh,
Different body part. You went south, literally.
I went south. Okay. Let's see. Cranial. Um, but I don't know. I almost said vasectomy. I know that's I know that's not it.
Then you
Um,
really went south.
way south. Cranial. Um, I have no idea. I heard CAT scan. And I was like, that's the head. Uh, I don't know. I honestly have no
Okay.
idea.
White
I
flagging it?
can't. Yeah, because I can't. I know. Is it cranial? Did I get the first part?
Yeah, it is. Believe it or not, a CVA, the abbreviation stands for cerebrovascular accident.
I was
And
so close.
yep, you were. And that's just a fancy way of saying a stroke.
Oh, okay. I was so damn okay. I was so close because I was vascular. I was trying to think of another word. That's why I said ventricular. And I was like, okay, that's not it. It was, and then the A accident. Okay, so it's having a stroke basically.
Yeah, basically it's having a stroke. But when you
Okay.
just like your job on my documentation,
Yeah.
I couldn't put stroke. I had to put possible
Oh,
CVA. I couldn't write the
possible
word
CVA,
stroke because I would be making a diagnosis. And you
and
can't
you
do
can't
that
because
without
you're
a
not a
CAT scan.
doctor. Okay, that makes sense. Yeah, because you don't have the equipment to do it. Just like technically, especially like technically, nobody ever dies on a flight
Nope,
because they
no one
don't.
ever dies in the back
They
of an ambulance neither.
Yep, because we can't declare them. We don't have the medical certification to be able to do that. So,
Well, you see,
but
I
yeah, that's
do, but you're doing CPR, so theoretically they're not dead.
correct. You're in the middle of trying to resuscitate them. But that's a good one, CVA. So cranial
Cerebro, cranial,
cerebro
cerebrovascular accident.
cerebrovascular accident. Okay,
Mhm.
yeah, I knew I had to do with the head. I just couldn't get vascular, and I wasn't gonna get accident. I couldn't get past the V. So good one,
We're
very good
still,
one.
34 years after I got my original EMT certification. I'm still wondering why they call it an accident. It's like your brain just going,
Accident.
oops, my bad. You
Oops,
know,
I slipped. Sorry. Oopsie. It was funny. One of our TikTok viewers, that Jeremy said I was saying accident for the A. Sorry, Jeremy, I can't hear you. I hope that would have helped, but I still would have never gotten vascular. I was thinking ventricular, which, like you said, ventricular is the veins. It's slower.
yep.
So interesting. All right, let's see if you'll get this one. I honestly don't think you'll get this one. The acronym is LDA. So mine's coming from the aviation career. LDA. LDA approaches are sometimes a little awkward because we aren't always fully aligned with the runway. LDA.
Lima Delta Alpha.
A firm. Yep. Lima Delta Alpha. Tommy's Googling it right now. Okay, I thought you were about to pull out your phone. I was like, Tommy, you can't do that. Yeah, so Lima Delta Alpha.
No,
LDA
well, I did add
approaches.
my phone, but it was just my mom wishing me Happy Father's Day.
Oh, I got you. Oh, yeah, I forgot. Sorry about that, Tommy. Happy Father's Day.
Oh,
And
good.
happy
Thank you.
Father's Day to all you fathers out there. I completely forgot
Yes,
about
Happy
that.
Father's Day, everybody.
Let's see. LDA approaches are sometimes a little awkward because we aren't always fully lined up with the runway. It's a type of
Lateral
approach.
displaced approach.
Uh, no. You got the no. It's you got the right idea, but that's not what it stands for.
Okay, so what I'm thinking is like if this is the runway, right?
Uh huh.
And you say you're not always aligned, so I'm thinking it's something like this.
So you're right. Like you are right. It's an offset approach.
An
So,
offset
but
approach.
what
Okay.
it is an offset approach, but what does LDA stand for? Because LDA is the specific. It's kind of like when we talked about RNP a couple months ago. It's a specific type of approach that we do.
So it's displaced, so it's not a precision approach.
Well, it's not. It has nothing to do with precision or non-precision. LDA stands for specific.
A specific type of approach.
Yes, so it's like RNP. Remember, stands for required navigation performance.
Mm-hmm.
So LDA is kind of like that, where it has a very specific name. The definition you said is right, but I'm looking for like CVA. I'm looking for the what it
The
stands for.
actual, yeah.
Yeah.
And hang
So
on.
you're right. It is an offset approach, but LDA.
I feel like this is something I should know that we've probably discussed in the past that I don't remember.
I honestly don't think we have because I don't. If I remember correctly, I don't think we've ever done an LDA approach when we were doing flight sim because they're not very common, but they
No,
do come up.
I think most of ours were RMPs, and because remember I went through
Uh,
that stint having you set up RMPs to learn them.
that's right. Yep. Absolutely.
I don't know. I'm white flagging this
Jeremy
one.
Jeremy in the TikTok chat is saying long distance approach. No, not quite. So are you white flagging it, Tommy?
Yeah, I'm gonna
It's
white
hard.
flag.
I don't. It's hard. You're gonna hear it and you're like, yeah, I was never gonna get that. It's localizer type directional aid. LDA
Localizer type
type
directional
direction.
aid.
So
Hmm.
what you so
Name,
you're
please.
right. It's an off. It is an offset approach. So when you're on an ILS, as long as the ILS localizer course, like the final approach course that you dial in from the approach plate, as long
Hmm.
as it's within 3 degrees of the runway heading, or of the runway, yeah, the center line heading, is considered a localizer approach. So that'd be your ILS, for example, in O'Hare on 10 right, we do the ILS Yankee to 10 right. It's an offset localizer by 2 degrees for the PRM approaches that we do to 10 center. But since it's within 3 degrees, it's not considered an LDA approach. So with an LDA approach, it's beyond 3 degrees. So perfect example is in Roanoke, Virginia, because of the mountainous terrain, has an LDA approach. So what it's saying is the LDA is beyond 3 degrees. So it's not aligned with the runway. And that's why it's a localizer. It's tuned to the same sensitivity. It's a localizer type directional aid. And some LDAs have glide slopes associated with them too. So it depends, but that's what it is. So if it's beyond 3 degrees from the center line, it's considered an LDA approach. The only other airport off the top of my head that I can think of that's an LDA approach is runway 19 going into DC. So if you're coming in and you're not doing the river visual, like you're having to do an ILS or something like that, you'll do an LDA approach to runway 1 if you can't do like the RNP. If that makes sense.
That does make sense. But just to make sure I learn this properly,
Mm-hmm.
if you and I are sitting in an aircraft that's
Mm-hmm.
instrument rated,
Correct.
our landing course is north,
Yep.
360 degrees, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if we were lined up on, say, the 004 radio
Mm-hmm.
to come in, that would be an LDA. But if we were at 002, it would be an ILS.
Or localizer, yeah. So if you're coming in and yeah, exactly. So if we're landing on a north runway, our final approach course on the plate, if it was an ILS, it could be anywhere from 357 degrees to 003 degrees. That's considered within the 3 degrees. Now, if it was 356 degrees or 004 degrees on the approach plate, And that's what we're coming in. We are more than 3 degrees off from the runway center line, so that's considered a localizer type directional aid approach, an LDA.
Okay, easy enough to
And, that,
understand when.
and it's basically the same. It's basically the same thing because, like I said, some LDA approaches have a glide slope associated with it. So it's like doing an ILS. It's just an LDA because of certification and the straight-in minima
Mhm.
defined by the FAA. They can't the minimums are higher because you're not directly aligned with the runway. There is some maneuvering that you have to do to get aligned with the runway. So the only real difference between LDA and ILS approaches is one, you're not aligned with the runway by more than 3 degrees, but you also will have a higher minima to allow you to navigate to the runway. Because if you think about it, at 200 feet, you're over the approach lights. So within 3 degrees, like what we do in O'Hare, which is a 2 degree offset, it's not that much to maneuver. But if you're coming at a 4 degree offset, like the one in Roanoke, I can't remember what it is. It's pretty drastic. And then you pop out at 200 feet over the lights, you're too low to be able to, especially in a 737, to be able to yank and bake and try to
Mhm.
turn and safely get on the runway. So they have to give you a higher minima to almost circle to be able to get there.
Okay, so you have basically your higher minima is it gives you enough room to safely maneuver the aircraft
Correct. Yeah,
to
because it's
make sure
assumed.
you're maintained
So
stable of those last couple hundred feet.
yeah, so it's the thing is it's the same. How do I put it? So the decision altitude, you'll have a decision altitude on some of them, right? Sometimes it's just a localizer, sometimes you'll have a glide slope associated, but they give you a higher decision altitude because at that point you're visual, so then you can maneuver as necessary far enough away from the runway to get into a normal position to land from
Gotcha.
a localizer. Yeah. So LDA approach. If you hear LDA, that means it's offset. Honestly, the biggest threat with LDA approaches is if you're approaching with wind and you're crabbing into the wind, you have to note your ground track because where the runway is going to appear in your windscreen in the flight deck is going to be completely different than where you anticipate it to. So if you're going straight down a runway, like just a normal ILS heading 360, and you got a wind from the east, you're crabbing to the right, you know to look left, right? It's depending on how severe the crab is and how strong the wind is. When you pop out, the winds or the runway's not going to be right in front of you. It's going to be slightly to the left because you are crabbing to the right
To the
to
right. Yeah.
compensate for the wind. So when you're coming in from an LDA, it's even more drastic. Like 10 right, it's not an LDA, but in O'Hare, it's a 2 degree offset. So if you have a wind from the east and you're pointing to the right, you're actually going to be pointed straight at the runway when you pop out, even though your ground track is to the left, if that makes sense.
It
So
does.
that's the biggest threat with the LDA is being situational aware of where to look for the runway when it pops out, when you become visual with the runway. So
I'm with you. That was
with
a good
that,
one.
that was a good jargon jiffy on both counts, both counts. And continuing with the aviation theme, this is no longer a new segment. Tell me, I've been doing this segment 5 episodes now, so I kind of removed
Mhm.
the new segment. But our new segment, oh my god, and I just said it, safety stand down is the replacement segment that we did for Career Corner. And basically, safety stand down, we're going through history and initially talking about aviation incidents and accidents that have formed the aviation industry and regulations as we know it today. And then eventually we'll go off on to do cruise ship or like ship disasters and other transportation facets that have helped improve the safety in our industry. But for right now, we're doing aviation because that's mainly what this podcast is about. So for today, we're talking about the lightning strike over Maryland, Pan Am 214 on December 8th, 1963. So this was a Boeing 707. It was departed Baltimore here at 8:24 p.m. Eastern Standard Time to go to Philly with I'm sorry. It was originally from Puerto Rico. It was going to Philly with an intermittent stop in Baltimore. Sorry, I had to try to set that up properly. But so in Baltimore, there was no maintenance write-ups on the Boeing 707. It departed from Baltimore at 8:24 p.m. Eastern Time, headed to Philly. Pan Am 214, when they switched over to Philadelphia approach, was advised of gusty winds in Philadelphia due to a squall line moving through, and the crew made the decision to hold until the squall line passed. So they were issued holding instructions, and they were told to expect further clearance at 9:10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. At 8:58 p.m. Eastern Time, there was a mayday call over the Philadelphia approach frequency, followed by another first officer and another aircraft that was in the holding pattern with them, stated that Clipper 214 is going down in flames, is what it was said over the radio. So that first officer from another airplane witnessed Pan Am 214 in flames crashing. The aircraft crashed east of Elkton, Maryland, and unfortunately, as most accidents were back then, all aboard were lost. There was nobody that survived. I don't believe there was anybody on the ground. It was just everybody on the airplane. Now, the Civil Aeronautics Board determined that the probable cause was lightning-induced ignition of the fuel-air mixture in the number one reserve fuel tank, with resultant explosive disintegration of the left outer wing and loss of control. So to simplify that, the airplane, because of the weather, while holding, got struck by lightning in the left wing, which ignited the air fuel mixture in the fuel tanks, causing the left wing to explode and fall off, and ultimately resulted in the loss of control of the Boeing 707. Which is insane, because I don't know why, but just up until this point, well, this is why, but up until this point, I just assume airplanes have always been lightning, what's the word? Inept to lightning effects.
Lightning
right?
rod?
I just always... Yeah, well, no, just I thought they never. I was always told growing up that airplanes weren't susceptible to major damage from lightning strikes. I never ever thought of it. I've the first time I ever got struck by lightning in an airplane was last year going into Pittsburgh in the 737, and it literally glanced off my nose right in front of, like, a foot or two in front of my face in the windshield, just in front of the windshield on the 737 I was flying. And that was loud. That scared the daylights out of me, because I saw it, hit it, glanced, and went whoop. And I remember going, that's the closest I ever want to be lightning ever again. That was way too close. But I didn't, we had some lights pop on momentarily. Autopilot didn't kick off. It wasn't that big of a deal. Made inspection when we landed. It went right back out. It wasn't a big deal. But the reason it wasn't a big deal was because of this accident. So the resulting change, along with several other lightning-related accidents during the same period, there was one in Milan, Italy, of a TWA flight that exploded because of lightning, as well as other military transports were having the same issue. The FAA formed a technical committee of lightning protection for aircraft fuel systems, which created specific lightning protection regulations, which were adopted in 1970 into Part 25 certifications. We talked about Part 25 a lot in the past couple episodes. And Part 25 is the certification requirement of the transport category airplanes as we see it today. There was an increased emphasis on electrical bonding of components in the wing tanks. So what that means is having a way for the electricity to travel through the fuel tanks without actually striking the fuel tanks. So we'll see, basically they're like little bonding wires. We see them all over the airplane. Basically it gives a path for the lightning or electricity to travel through away from critical systems. They also created what's called a surge tank lightning protection for the Boeing 707. It was a photoelectronic cell which was used to monitor the vent air take on the wing. The vent air take on the wing is an air vent that serves as two purposes, especially on the Boeing 737 nowadays. Is it keeps a positive pressure in the tank to make sure that fuel is being fed to the fuel pumps and to the engines. And also it's a surge protector, so if there's a surge of fuel or pressure, it allows the fuel to vent from that area. But on the Boeing 707, there was a photoelectronic cell. When it sensed a flame, two suppressors would activate and discharge a suppressant into the fuel to keep the fuel not inert, basically, so it wouldn't explode until the fire risk was gone, and then it would no longer push that suppressant in, and then it would be fine and work as normal. And for those of you that don't know, photoelectronic cell is basically a piece of equipment that senses light, kind of like a smoke detector in some cases. And when that light gets blocked or it illuminates and it gets activated, that's what causes the suppressor or the suppressant to activate. Then there were also vent flame arresters, which are passive devices that were inserted in vent pipes to cool flames that are ignited at the outlet. And then this is the big one, is that part of the reason that these aircrafts were exploding because of lightning strikes is because how thin the aluminum was. It was like 0.06 inches or something like that, which was too thin and allowed the lightning and electricity to actually burn through to the important components and cause the combustion. So since then, the FAA requires a minimum aluminum thickness on aircraft skin to be I think it was 0.08 inches now, which is thick enough to prevent burn through or melt through from a lightning strike. And that is as all result of Pan Am 214. What do you think about that, Tommy?
That's very interesting, because you would think with the aircraft have famously been made from aluminum for how long?
Mm-hmm.
Now, and one of the things, like, a lot, we talk about technology a lot on this show. One of the things I was thinking was the technology not around previous to this incident to not be able to figure this out.
Well,
You know, it was this new math that was invented and stuff like that.
the thing is like anything in aviation, until it happens, they don't know about it. At the time, the Boeing 707 was considered to be the one of the safest aircraft. All the technical advancements and stuff that on the 707 were supposed to be leading edge for safety, and it was understood that lightning. We were lightning, or airplanes were lightning rods, but it was also in the previous instances they just traveled through the airplanes with little to no effect. Up until now, they didn't know that it could cause the explosions. At the time, there was no way for the bonding straps and basically safety measures to keep the lightning and electricity away from the combustible or fragile parts of the aircraft. So it wasn't until this accident, and also the other series of accidents like TWA and Milan and stuff like that, to make them go, well, maybe we should start looking into this because these airplanes are exploding from lightning strikes. Like I said, didn't know. I learned something because I just figured airplanes were always like that, but it was because of this accident that airplanes are now less affected by lightning strikes. So that's the takeaway.
Yeah, because I remember your lightning strike in Pittsburgh. So we were talking. I believe it was the next day. We were talking about it.
Probably.
And I was like, "Well, what happened to the plane?" And you were like, "It went to maintenance, and we're gonna fly it out of here."
Well, it wasn't us. It was the next year. Yeah, maintenance showed up, looked for the entry point and the exit point. I don't think they ever found it because usually the exit point is like a pinhole. It's so tiny where it comes out. But they inspected all the major components of the airplane to make sure it didn't go out there. Did a internal check of all the systems and the computer tests and all that stuff, and signed it off and sent it back. We went to the hotel. So it wasn't a major thing. And like I said, other than the loud bang and me physically seeing the lightning strike on the nose, there wasn't really anything else to it. So, and that's all thanks to the new regulations in Part 25 from this accident. So, like I said, that's the huge takeaway from this. But now we get to move on to, it was a good one. So Pan Am Flight 214 is the lightning strike over Baltimore or over Maryland. So with that being said, let's move on to our live listener Q&A, where we get to interact with our viewers here. We got I got a couple here. Let's see. Jerry Who from TikTok says, do you fly on the 737-900? I do. So, Jerry, we all have, when you're type rating on the Boeing 737, it's a common type rating. So, I can fly the 600, 700, 800, 900, and the MAX aircraft. The flights or the airplanes that I actually fly for my company are the 700s, 800s, 900s, 900 ERs, MAX 8s, and MAX 9s. So, I fly all of those. Let me see. I don't think I have. We got a thank you, SPV 1627. He said happy birthday to myself for my birthday turning 30 yesterday. I do appreciate that. But that's all I got on my side, Tommy. What do you got?
Oh, just good mornings and Father's Day wishes from Ashley and Howie. So thanks, folks. Good morning to you.
Yep, and I am so sorry. That should have been in the intro. I completely spaced on that. Happy Father's Day to everybody. I should have said that in the intro. But that will now move us to and I'm excited to talk about this. Because it is a huge topic, kind of rippling through the drone flyer industry or community. Today we're talking about the gray scare, or the DJI drone ban. Is it an actual national security threat or another political witch hunt? And let me preface this by, let's talk a little bit about where the episode name came from, the gray scare. It comes from, and gray is because DJI drones are generally gray. That's where it comes from. But it's kind of alluding to and this comes from the National Archives, from the 1950 Red Scare. So Senator Joseph R. McCarthy was a little-known junior senator from Wisconsin until February of 1950, when he claimed that he possessed a list of 205 card-carrying communists employed in the U.S. Department of State. In other words, he claimed he had a list of communists that were working in the U.S. Department of State at the time. And from that moment, Senator McCarthy became a tireless crusader against communism in the early 1950s, and a period that has been commonly referred to as the Red Scare. As a chairman of the Senate Permanent Investigation Subcommittee, McCarthy conducted hearings on communist subversion in America and investigated alleged communist infiltration of the armed forces. His subsequent exile from politics coincided with a conversion of his name into a modern English noun, McCarthyism, or adjective McCarthy tactics when describing similar witch hunts in recent American history. The American Heritage Dictionary gives the definition of McCarthyism as one, the political practice of publicizing accusations of disloyalty, of subversion with insufficient regard to evidence, and two, the use of methods of investigations and accusations regarded as unfair in order to suppress opposition. Senator McCarthy was censured, or basically fired, from the U.S. Senate on December 2nd, 1954, and died later, May 2nd, 1957. That is the history. So you understand when we refer to the Gray Scare, that's what I'm talking about. Because, perfect transition, I honestly don't think that the DJI drones are a national security threat. I've done research. As far as I can tell, there has been no proof, zero proof, that when you fly your DJI drone, that it is sending information about U.S. infrastructure and stuff like that to the Chinese Communist Party. Now, what's happening is there's the National Defense Bill that gets updated every single year. And what happened is this was about to get passed through, and this is kind of the sneaky side of politics, is they're stapling on laws to the very backside of them as it's about to go through to be like, well, while we're doing this, might as well do this. And one of those things is talking about the anti-CCP, or Chinese Communist Party Security Act, which they're talking about trying to push through, which includes banning DJI drones because they claim, and this is from both sides of the aisle, so you can't blame one side or the other. Everybody has this paranoia about these drones, but they claim that DJI is feeding information to the Chinese Communist Party, which I don't know if you've ever flown a DJI drone, Tommy. I have. I love my drone. It is, it's affordable in my opinion, and it's a great drone. Easy to fly, gets you some amazing footage, and to me it feels like a witch hunt. It feels like more anti-Asia, as I hate to say it, anti-Asia. Was it legislation? We saw it with TikTok, right?
Mm-hmm.
TikTok, this whole banning TikTok thing is because the Chinese Communist Party, when the TikToks of people doing dance trends and the cinnamon challenge or whatever it used to be, is getting sent back to the Chinese Communist Party, so therefore we got to ban it. Okay, so let me ask you a question. Are you gonna start banning like other imports? So that's my big concern, is that this witch hunt is going to result in a very strong isolationist type economy, which sucks because our economy, our dollar value is largely based on the willingness to trade with us. Has nothing to do. We haven't been backed by a metal standard in years. So what we're based on is the willingness of other countries and imports and exports to trade with us. So if we start doing this whole, we're gonna chop off, the DJI because it's from China. Now you can go buy American made. You start with one, and it's going to continue until we're only buying U.S. American, and then the value of our dollar is going to plummet, in my opinion. What do you think, though? Political witch hunt, or do you actually think DJI drones actually pose a security threat?
You know what? This cell phone, my pen,
Mm-hmm.
in the hands of the wrong person is a national security threat.
Yeah.
You see anything in the world can be a national security threat.
Yeah.
A DJI drone, you who uses it properly, who actually is licensed
I'm a Part 107 commercial
Yep.
drone operator. Yep.
That 15-year-old kid who gets it for his birthday and is in the middle of a field in Arkansas somewhere just having a good time, not so much. I personally, I think this is a political witch hunt. I don't,
Yeah.
I have, as we all know, I do have a certain level of SWAT training. Before I actually retired from EMS in November of 2022, some of that training incorporated drone technology. They're no longer, most major departments who have the budget for it. Not necessarily DJI drone, but it is a drone.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of departments now, the way SWAT teams used to do it, is, there's a reason why they wear black and kick your door in at 4 a.m,
Yeah.
But now, if there's a standoff and things like that, it's drone technology that's feeding information back to the command post about where assailants are, where hostages could be, where things like that. And it's saving lives. It's proven. It's on paper. It's fact that it is saving and reducing injuries to the SWAT officers that are doing this. I'm not going to get too far into the politics of it because I am, I'm running for president. So that's where I am politically right now.
Tommy and
Uh,
Bill, 2024.
that's it.
Yeah. Don't know. We're not going to do the Frosty Nixon. We're not doing that.
But,
No.
and like you said, we have not been on a gold standard for our finances for
For a
decades now.
while. For a while.
The gold standard is, in fact, most people under 15 or 16 years old probably don't even know what the gold standard is.
Gold standard is, yeah.
And,
And for those,
we do have trade agreements with almost every country in the world, including countries in the Asias and this, that, and the other thing. Look at your technology, folks. Read where it is. Now, am I all about buying American? I 110 million% am. I would much prefer to buy American than anything else. But like you said, there are things that we don't have in America. Other countries do, and we have these trade agreements that are mutually beneficial to both countries.
And I have to say too, you think I was just we were talking about it earlier because I ordered a 4K camcorder right from Amazon that came from China, and it was a terrible piece of equipment. It claimed it was 4K. It was maybe 480p. It knocked off a couple zeros at the end. It was terrible. But DJI is not like that. DJI, it's a high quality product. It's an amazing drone, and I love using mine. So it's just one of those things that's like, and also it's not cheap. I got mine for, I think it was like $800. So that's another thing that is kind of a red flag about this bill. I think, because right now the way the bill is written is there is no compensation for those that own a DJI drone. There's no refund. There's no compensation. But but there's also no grandfathering. The way I think is once this bill goes into effect, it should either one have compensation for those who own DJI drones who have bought them before and are now being affected by this. I only think that's fair because they're not cheap. They're also affecting livelihoods. There's people that utilize these drones for their livelihood, commercial operators. I actually just saw a TikTok the other day where a guy got like 5,000 of the DJI Phantom drones, and they're basically agricultural drones where they go out and spray the crops instead of flying a airplane out there, which is all automatic. You just sit there and tell it where you want to go, and it goes out there and flies and does it for you. So, this was just after that announcement about the possibility of a DJI ban. Someone in the comment was like, "Does someone want to tell this guy?" But that guy, like, that's what I'm talking about. It's like you're really jeopardizing businesses and stuff that have been built on this. And a lot of people will say, "Well, go buy an American drone." Here's the problem, though. We don't have drone technology. We don't have an industry like DJI. That's why DJI was able to come in and capitalize on the American market, is because there's no other company in the United States in terms of drones that matches it. And that's the other problem. And this is the problem that really kind of upsets me, is they're claiming it's a national security threat, but there's also the US drone companies who don't like DJI as a competitor because they control the market because they have great drones and technology. They don't like it, so they lobbied Congress and the House of Representatives to ban them because they don't want any competition. They want to be able to sell their own drones for their own financial gain, which, when on one hand you say it's national security, but realistically, if you have lobbyers in the background saying, well, no, we want American-made drones so we can improve our businesses and stop giving our money to China. It's like, you have to understand that's how it works. The value of our dollar is based on the willingness to trade. The moment the world says, we're not going to trade with the United States anymore, or heaven forbid, they put embargoes on us like we put embargoes on everybody else in the past, we're screwed. The value of the dollar is going to drop through the floor. There's nobody willing to trade with us. So I think it's a very slippery slope that we're starting to get on when lobbyists who are more concerned about their businesses and the U.S. drone market industry in terms of like lining their pockets is taking a step and using national security as a ploy to be able to ban a very good product that's already in use here. Plus, that's capitalism. I hate to break it to you. The whole point of capitalism is to keep the price for the consumer down. So if there's a better product that's out there, it's their job in the U.S. market to make a better drone with a competitive price to compete against DJI, not just completely eliminate them because they can. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I don't know. I think it's a political witch hunt. I honestly do, especially especially when there's companies behind the scenes, the U.S. drone companies. They're like, well, we can't compete. Not that we won't compete. We can't compete is what they're saying. What realistically is they won't, because if they have to compete with DJI drones, they're going to have to compete with the prices. For example, on an article I was looking at about this, they're like, here's some, equivalent drones that you can go fly. They were on Amazon. I went from a U.S. company, something that was not even at the level of my Mavic 2. It was like $1,200.
Mm.
Why am I going to buy that when my DJI Mavic drone, my Air 2, is twice as good and at $800?
And you see,
You know
that's
what I
another
mean?
thing too. Like, don't automatically assume we're stupid. We can
Yep.
do simple math.
Yep.
I understand businesses in the United States need to make a profit. I don't disagree with it. If I was in business, I want a profit. I want to
Mm-hmm.
pay my employees. I want my employees' kids to get Christmas gifts. You know what
Yeah.
I'm saying? But
Yeah. But
somewhere along the line, and these things went away, and I didn't really learn about them till I lived in Florida. We
yeah.
do have multiple um I want to say episodes, but it's so not episodes. Multiple volumes of books that talk about the anti-price gouging laws too. Look at
Yep.
around what's going on now. That is nothing but straight up old-fashioned price gouging. And you
Yeah.
know what?
And
Product X might be a superior product made here in America by American hands with American materials. Awesome. Now
well,
we
it's.
have the same thing coming from Eurasia.
Mm-hmm.
That's $1,000 cheaper. Guys, smarten up.
Well,
Get your
and
heads
here's
out
the.
of wherever it is you buried them,
Yep.
ostrich or other things. You can read my mind on this.
Yeah.
You wanna you wanna profitize your business and make it best. Make it so the American consumer can afford it. And I promise you, if it is a superior quality product
Product.
for
Yep.
a
We'll buy
fair
it.
price and that
Mm-hmm.
is reliable,
We'll buy
you'll
it.
laugh all the way to the bank.
Yep.
I just finished freshman year in business school and I kind of figured that one out on my own. So all
Yeah.
you big CEOs,
Well, the problem is the profit margin. They're not willing to sacrifice the profit margin. So if they can create a cheap project that is quote unquote American made, and then get people to buy it even though it's a piece of junk, they'll do
yeah,
it.
and that's just it. They don't
Eh,
want to deal
eh,
with the profit margins because a higher profit margin, excuse me, makes them look great to their stakeholders. It makes them look good to their
Yep.
shareholders. And, God forbid we go against what the board of directors has to say if you're a
Yeah.
publicly traded company. Like, real,
Yeah.
like,
Yeah. Well, and
uh,
also the thing is, I will applaud DJI because they attempted to, and they did. They licensed a new company in the United States to sell DJI drones, but Congress is going after them because they're still DJI technology. Is the
well,
problem, which I
yeah,
think is stupid. I think it's stupid, but good. I mean, but then where does that stop? Because there's American licensed companies. We talked about it, like Kia, Nissan. There's licensed American companies that sell foreign products. You know what I mean? Where does it? That's why I'm saying it's a slippery slope for us to be stepping on, because now they're interfering with the general public. Apparently, there's already been a ban on the DJI drones with the federal government already, which is fine. Tell the federal government, because that's honestly, let's be honest. When I'm flying my drone, I'm not connected to any federal security sensitive information while I'm flying my drone. I'm not. But those that were on the federal, maybe I could see that. We'll keep the ban federal and let us choose as American consumers in a capitalist market. Let us choose what we want to buy. And if it, like you said, if it's a far superior product like DJI, then let us buy it. Period. There shouldn't be this. I'm going to use Congress to ban a foreign entity to be able to sell something, because that's a slippery slope. Because a lot of our market relies on this. Android, for example, Samsung, that's Korean, right? Granted, it's
hmm
not communist, right? There are allies that are not communists or capitalists, but that's the slope you slip on. If that slope is going to be the American-made slope, we're going to fall face first and slide down until we hit the bottom. So it's just one of those things. It's a precedent that we are seeing that they're setting. Now, good news is checks and balances, right? The House of Representatives have passed it, the Congress, right? Now it's in the Senate for consideration. There is a strong possibility that the Senate may go, nope. So there is some checks and balances. And the president and the Supreme Court also have to judicially say, yeah, it's legal. And, because the administration could still technically veto it. I would personally, my big thing, if they ban it, okay. But my big thing is I paid $800 for mine, right? Are you going to pay me $800 to go get a new drone? Or those poor companies that, like I said, solar panel companies, roof inspection companies, or repair, people have built their businesses around using high quality products like DJI. And now you're just telling them, oh, yeah, that $4,000 drone fleet that you just bought from DJI, can't fly it. Oh, and by the way, we're not going to pay you for it. Come
Right,
on. Come on.
right.
For the people, by the people, that's BS.
You know what? I think in the political climate right now of this country, and as I said, I'm not going into it. We're just going to leave it as political climate. And everyone who's watching us knows what I'm talking about. You know, and to quote my generation, get a clue, guys. Like, here's a buck, go buy a clue.
Yeah.
Look at what's going on. Look at what you're causing. It ain't us doing it.
Yeah.
And
It's not,
speaking
yeah.
of, bringing it back with the federal ban. Now, because I spoke to you about a close friend of mine who is a federal employee at the Pentagon who walks, the halls of the Pentagon Monday to Friday, sometimes for longer hours than what he likes. But, he is not really a drone guy, but he would definitely understand why. Simply because some of those doors that he walks past that are closed and locked, the very highly classified sensitive information that's in those hallways. So he would probably agree with that being a federal government employee.
Well,
Because
yeah.
there's
I mean,
always
I would
that
agree
one
with that
person,
too.
you know.
Yeah. Well, it's like any federal access. No, if you have a phone that's issued by the federal government that you use for federal government businesses, including classified or sensitive calls, don't have TikTok on them. Okay, that's cool. I understand that, but don't force the American public, especially. And my big thing too, there is no evidence of a security breach that would indicate that DJI is feeding intel about American infrastructure to the Chinese Communist Party.
And you know
Nothing.
what? And
Not
I could
even a lick.
understand. In a way, I could understand that, because the blanket of national security is so broad.
Yeah.
I could turn around and be like, "Hey, that banner of the ERJ 175 right in back of your head, that might threat national security," and then come up with some cockamamie story how a harmless banner on
Yeah.
your wall affects national security. Now, are they looking
It,
into different things? Yes, because remember, there's always something going on that the general public, don't know about.
I'm
And
trying to I'm trying to I'm trying to see. Sorry, is Logitech made in China? I'm literally looking at all my devices now, trying to figure out. I feel
you
like it
know,
is.
come here,
Yep,
Mister Left, made in China.
made in China. Let's see. What else do I got? I have
I
my
believe
GoPro
SciTech
here.
was originally too before Logitech took them over.
Is GoPro a US company or is GoPro made in China? I'm trying to find items. I got a Logitech camera. I got a Logitech uh mouse. What else? What else do I got? I got Logitech
Okay,
speakers.
GoPro is an American technology company that founded in 2002 by Nick Woodman, a sports
Okay, so
enthusiast who wanted a better way to document his passion.
okay, fair. So that's not okay. But my point is I have a Logitech camera. We're on the internet, just like a DJI drone would be. Are they going to ban Logitech next?
Right?
That's
And
that's
even
what I'm saying
getting
is
back
where
in
does it
this,
stop?
I know people who are state licensed home inspectors, and they self they're contractors essentially, right? They formed LLCs and whatnot, and they don't
Yeah,
climb ladders to inspect roofs anymore. If my one buddy here and said, "Hey, Bill, you need," later on down the line, and if he was uh, licensed where you are in the country, like, dude,
yeah,
I'm gonna send my buddy over there. He'll give you a good deal because he's my buddy and you're my buddy, and that's how that thing works. He is not climbing a ladder to get to the roof of your house. He's standing out in the front, probably with you standing next to him, flying his drone over your roof with a, very, very good camera on it, looking at the roofing shingles.
yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. It's a safety. You could argue safety, whether it's law enforcement, whether it's search and rescue, whether it's like you said, that's the amount of risk that is involved with climbing up on a roof to inspect it. Not to mention the time. It's so much easier just to throw up a drone, get a scan. You can do multiple houses at once and then go back to the office and analyze. It's more efficient, which also drives down costs for customers. So I don't know. There's just no. It's a witch hunt, and I don't know why we're doing it. Like I said, it's a slippery slope. I support buying U.S. made, but there's no reason to prevent
Bankrupt us.
bankrupt us on it, because what's going to happen is DJI is going to go down, right? And DJI is not going to. Nobody can buy DJI or even fly them. That's the screwy part. If they're banned, we can't even fly them. So then now we're going to be forced to buy a U.S. made drone, which they're now the only controlling, the biggest company is going to be the controlling interest in all this. And now we're forced to pay probably $1,500 for a drone that's like half the quality of DJI.
You watch how quick interest drops and no one buys anything.
Yeah, I'll scratch off the DJI thing on my. No, I'm just kidding.
Now, as a middle class working schlep, we'll just leave the money in the savings account. I really want it, but I'm not playing your game.
Yeah, no. So, but anyways, that's what that was our discussion topic for today. A DJI drone ban, as you could probably tell, Tom and I are very on the side of that this is a political witch hunt. I don't think there's actually any grounds. There hasn't been any evidence that we are aware of to the public knowledge that the DJI drone has been providing secret intel to the Chinese Communist Party. I think it is just like it was back in the 1950s. I think it's just somebody who's trying to make a name for themselves, trying to send this bill through to ban DJI.
Are people thinking that there's a non-existent Cold War starting again?
Yep, and like I said, remember history. If we do not know our history, we're doomed to repeat it. In 1950, right. McCarthy was a unknown senator. He was an unknown senator from Wisconsin until February 1950. He came out and says, "Oh, I have a list of 205 people who are communists working in our government." Basically, it's the same thing. Someone somewhere, I think there was a representative in New York that started this bill. I'm not going to mention the party because, like I said, there is bipartisan support for this bill. It's not just one side of the aisle. But this person in New York goes, Chinese Communist Party are going to receive intel on the infrastructure because we're flying these drones. No evidence to support it whatsoever. It is right. Night and day. We're seeing another modern day Joseph R. McCarthy, and I think it is another political witch hunt. But before I get too heated on that, we are going to go ahead and wrap up the show and let us know. Let us know what you think about. We had a couple things today talking about the Tesla truck. Would you buy a Tesla truck? And let us know. Would you prefer that we bought American-made drones, or how do you feel about the DJI drone ban? Let us know in the comments section on this week's show. So once again, we're going to wrap up this episode number 25, The Gray Scare, and we do thank you all for joining us this week. If you enjoyed the show, please let us know by rating the show on the respective platform you are listening on. For Spotify users, at the top of the podcast page near the notification bell, hit the three dots and select Rate Show. For Apple Podcast users, scroll all the way down to the bottom of the podcast page to give your rating and review. And if you're watching us live today and would like to review the show, please feel free to rate the show on Spotify or Apple Podcast. Like I said previously, Tommy and I were in the top 60 podcasts as of December of last year for aviation, but we've kind of tumbled down from there because of my hiatus from moving houses and such. So we're trying to get back up there. So if you have time today for the show, or even right now, just go click on Spotify, find us on Spotify, and just give us a good rating there. Now, if you want to stay up to date with the show and industry news, please follow us on Twitter. It'll be on the ticker tape below here. It's at Torque. Right here, it's coming up underneath Tommy here. Torque In Thrust Talk Show is right there. Torque, the letter In Thrust, TS on Twitter. If you'd like to save the show for on-the-go entertainment and news, follow and turn on notifications for the talk show on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and iHeartRadio. And feel free to follow Tommy D and I on YouTube, Twitch, and TikTok. I am at Captain Bill Official, and Tommy is at Level Flight Simulations. Next live show will be Sunday, June 23rd at 10 a.m. Central and 10 a.m. Central and 11 a.m. Eastern. On behalf of the Torque and Thrust Talk Show, I am Bill.
I am Tommy.
And we will see you next week.